Hello, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. Welcome back to my channel. And we're a bit over 6 weeks into Donald J. Trump's second presidency. Thank God his last presidency. Isn't it good that the founding father of the United States, well, sorry, not them, the 1950s, forgive me, I misspoke. In the 1950s, the United States had the foresight to introduce a constitutional amendment and restrict presidents to 2 terms maximum. So he has roiled the stock market and the US economy and the global economy generally by introducing these tariffs, fighting this trade war. Remember the trade war from his first term? We don't hear him crowing about that as a success. I remember when he tried to do that on China, he said trade wars are good and easy to win. Really? Even he never claimed to have won that one. Give me an example of a trade war that the United States has won. I mean, if they're that easy to win, why didn't they fight them all the time? How come it's Trump is really the only one who gets this? Now, I've never studied economics. I'm very cognizant of my ignorance on this one. And true wisdom is awareness of one's deficits and limitations. So therefore, I defer to those who have an expertise in this area. I've never heard of any economist who said, yeah, trade wars, protectionism, that's the way to go. There's been a consensus, from really after the Second World War, that these are bad. There's general agreement on trades and tariffs, trying to reduce tariff barriers, haven't been got rid of entirely. So he's stupid enough to think there's foreign countries to pay them. No, it's not. It's American companies and individuals who purchase these imports. And of course, they're riposting. So the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, he retaliated yesterday and appealed to the American people, said that we did not choose this, we don't want to do this, but we, of course, have got to protect ourselves. If you're going to make it more difficult to sell our exports to the United States, well, we've got to do it the same to you. And then finally, the United States will come to its senses and reduce or ideally remove these entirely. Now, I don't have some principled objection to any tariffs whatsoever. It was 1% on just a few items. But it's well known that in the generality, it's a bad thing because there's global trade. You have a product that we can't produce, so we want to buy it from you. We have a product or service that you can't produce, so you want to buy it from us. So that's what trade's all about. Sometimes my country can produce this good or service, but you can do it at lower price and or to a higher standard, and vice versa. And there's competition. The Republican Party is all about capitalism, right? So competition is good for the consumer. That is the mantra. So therefore, you would encourage the maximum possible competition to have so that the best goods and services at the best prices win. And that's it. You'd have a free market as much as possible. The odd thing is they don't want a free market with labor, and obviously you need workers, the people who are going to do the best job for the best wage. Lowest wage should appeal to employers. So why don't you want them to be allowed in? And I'm not an open borders person either. Of course, I recognize immigration is necessary, even desirable, but within some sort of reasonable limit. So the US stock market is going, it's hurting, as Maggie Thatcher, that household god of international conservatism, said, you can't buck the market. Oddly enough, she never applied that one to drugs, but there we go. Neither does Trump. So anyway, Standard & Poor's 500 index, looking at the 500 major companies in the United States, said they folded from the second day. And okay, they fall from time to time. But one of Trump's biggest success, he was always bragging about, was the stock market was doing well under him. And it was till coronavirus. It was doing well under Biden as well, rose almost all the time. So anyway, Justin Trudeau correctly said that what Trump did was very, very dumb. So that's why they're hitting back. So Trump then called him the governor of Canada, just being as offensive and as childish as possible. What an impetuous infant he is. He is a sulking toddler, throwing toys out of the pram. So much for being an alpha male. You see the fragility of Trump and his band of followers. They are so touchy, they're shrieking, they're crybabies. It's just pathetic, really contemptible. And so it goes on. So, and even Trump appears to be walking it back a bit. And the United States Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, saying that they may have some special deal with Canada and Mexico. Now, luckily for the United Kingdom, there's no such tariff on the United Kingdom at the moment. Fortunately for the UK, Trump is a royalist, and Keir Starmer played a blinder by giving that second invitation for a state visit to the United Kingdom. And Trump is ignorant enough not to realize that that's not because he's so magnificent, but simply because there's a new monarch on the throne. That's why it's diplomatically permissible to invite him a second time, is only because the old queen died. So American consumers are going to be hurt. American companies that manufacture things, they very, very seldom get all their components from the United States. They might need a component from another country, sometimes a raw material. That's going to cost them more. They pass that cost on to the consumer. Sometimes they import whatever it is, raw materials, components, to then re-export the finished product. That's become more expensive. There's already a hiring slowdown, and this is just the beginning. So it was a really idiotic thing to do. Now, if you're a multimillionaire, you're not going to really feel the rise in prices. But for Trump, a lot of his supporters are working class. He says he loves the less educated. And yeah, I can think why. Because they don't have the cognitive faculty to understand his policies. They're just misinformed. They don't have the vocabulary to follow the news, things like that. And it's the old Dunning-Kruger effect, which you see in Trump himself. You see his overconfidence is precisely someone who's mentally subnormal like him doesn't realize his own limitations and hugely overestimates his aptitude in all sorts of areas. Is intelligent and wise people who are very conscious of their shortcomings, and therefore that they're willing to seek advice, and that often actually underestimate their ability in various areas. But is he doing this deliberately because to crash the economy, and then the vulture capitalists can buy up things for a fraction of their real value because they're the only ones with the capital to do so? Businesses go bust, people lose their homes and so on, and that they can swoop in and pick up the pieces, just like in the Great Depression. So there were several billions of dollars that cost across the US-Canada border every single day, and likewise Mexico. So their economies are enmeshed. If one catches cold, it passes on to the other one. So China's also hit back with the retaliatory import taxes. The European Union is now going to do the same. So it's all very bad news. These very high tariffs. So American consumers are going to pay more for their food, for manufactured products, and so on. They're going to be able to sell less of their food, of any other raw materials, of their manufactured products, of their services. So it's going to make life worse and worse for blue collar people. And it was these people who thought that he was going to somehow bring back the smokestack industries, the United States, that are going to find it getting worse for them. So desperation. So obviously, some Republicans are maybe sensible capitalists. They may be rapacious and extremely avaricious, but they're not entirely stupid or insane. Will realize they need to row this back. And here we are. It's March 2025. So we've got how many? It's a year and 7 months till the midterms. Not that long away. Not even so just over a year and a half away, and obviously that'll be good for the Democrats. It'll take several months for this to really bite, and then they'll have to row back. So I mean, Trump, it seems to be his motto seems to be how to lose friends and alienate people, after the Honorable Hugo Young book about his time in New York City. So he's hitting his own people the worst. There'll be higher unemployment. It may yet add to inflation. It's just madcap. It's completely stupid. And what would be the victory point? That the United States never purchase anything from abroad? That really is preposterous. So he's been very, very foolish and short-sighted, and they're going to have to pick up the pieces sometime. And just when otherwise the unemployment was low, inflation was quite low, there was healthy economic growth, the stock market was doing just fine, because this huge rearmament across the world, a lot of this meant other countries purchasing US military manufacturers. And I wish I was a certain person who invested in the stock market, because I said this right at the beginning of the war. The thing to do is to buy shares in these military manufacturing companies. Well, thank you for watching my channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Another thing is a bit like the shock doctrine of Naomi Klein, that Canadian leftist commentator, that after a shocking event, she said that right wingers in the United States or elsewhere will see that they can maximize their advantage. People are left reeling, disoriented, and that will be a chance to railroad through some legislation to advance their agenda. And that's the sort of crisis that Trump is creating. I think there's no method to its madness. I don't think there's a master plan. No, there are no master strokes like some of his team play. This is anything but magisterial. It's just sheer stupidity, ignorance, and arrogance. Right, toodle pip.